Raider Nation, get ready. This one's going to fire you up. Picture this. It's draft night. You're in the team's war room. The clock is ticking, and the player you want most is still available. Sounds exciting, right? But here's where it gets even better. Someone just leaked what really happened behind the scenes. And trust me, it'll make you proud to be part of the silver and black. NFL insider Jeremy Fowler says the Raiders had one name locked in for pick number 6, Ashton Jeanty. And to them, he wasn't just another running back. No, this guy was special, the kind of player you build your team around. But there was a problem. The Denver Broncos were after him too. They really wanted Jenny. That's when you know the Raiders made the smart move. When your rival team is upset they didn't get him. Now here's something interesting. Pete Carroll, a coach who almost never picks a running back in the first round, and John Spytek, who never picked one early when he was in Tampa Bay, they both made an exception for Jeanty. That says a lot about how good this guy is. It's clear now, the Raiders weren't just looking for a running back. They wanted a leader. Someone who brings energy. Someone who walks into the locker room and makes everyone believe in something bigger. That's how much they believed in Jeanty. And that's just the beginning. Don't worry, I've got more, including how John Spytek tricked a top NFL insider. Yes, really. And the crazy reaction it caused. Let's jump into it. Let's pull back the curtain because what the Raiders did in the draft wasn't just smart. It was a master move. It all began with a bold decision. The Raiders traded away picks 37 and 143 to the Dolphins. In return, they got picks 48, 98, and 135. Then they flipped pick 48 to Houston for 58 and 99. Sounds like a lot of swapping, right? But trust me, it was all part of John Spytek's smart plan. He knew two big things. One, the roster still had gaps. Two, the real hidden gems in this draft were coming on day 2. So instead of going for one big-name player, the Raiders chose a smarter path. Get more picks and grab multiple solid players. That's how they ended up with 3 third-round picks, a big win. I've been saying it for weeks. Day 2 had the best value. Clearly, Spytek agreed. The top 120 players were loaded with talent, and the Raiders hit the jackpot right there. Just look at who they picked. Jack Beck, a guy who could become a starter. Darian Porter, someone who's ready to make an early impact. Charles Grant and Caleb Rogers, they may not start right away, but they're important, especially for building depth on the offensive line. And let's be real. If you want your number 6 pick, Jeanty, to succeed, he needs protection. Here's something sneaky that most people didn't notice. Before day 2 even started, the Raiders quietly released 6 players. That was a clear sign. They were making space. Spytek wasn't guessing. He had a plan. He knew who was coming. By the end, the Raiders had 11 picks instead of 9. Every trade, every move, it all made sense. Spytek and Pete Carroll had a clear goal. Pick a star early, then surround him with smart, valuable players. And guess what? They didn't just draft better, they outsmarted other teams. Need proof? The Broncos were targeting one of the guys the Raiders got. The 49ers wanted a few too. Darian Porter, Charles Grant, and Caleb Rogers were all on their radar. But the Raiders got there first. Even when they missed out on someone like Jaden Higgins, it led to more smart trades. Here's the bottom line. Every team sees the draft differently. But when you look at how Vegas played their cards, one thing is clear. This wasn't just a draft. It was a heist. The Raiders didn't just win in picks. They also beat their rivals. Here's something funny. The Broncos just dropped a new logo. I don't know if it'll go on their helmets or jerseys, but if it makes you laugh, you owe me a favor. Subscribe to the Raiders Report and turn on those notifications. Okay, back to business. According to ESPN's Jeremy Fowler, the Broncos were trying hard to move up in the first round to draft running back Ashton Jeanty. They even called teams in the top 10, but the price? Too high. And with the Raiders sitting at number 6, a division rival wasn't exactly going to hand them their guy. The Broncos considered moving up for Ashton Jeanty, but knew the Raiders wouldn't trade with a division rival, Fowler reported. Source: Jeremy Fowler, ESPN. That only makes me love the Jeanty pick more. The Broncos saw what we saw, a star in the making. But the Raiders acted first. Even the Chargers are copying this formula. They got Omari Hampton. They hired Jim Harbaugh, building a physical team like Philly. Why? Because all 3 teams know The only way to beat the Chiefs is to dominate in the trenches. You won't win a shootout with Mahomes, but you can slow him down with a great O-line and defense. Now, would I have picked up the phone if Denver called? Sure. I wouldn't make the trade, but I'd at least hear what they were offering. Maybe they'd toss in two future firsts? Probably not, but you listen, especially when it's a division rival. And before we wrap this section, let me just say John Spytek is playing 4D chess. He's already earned respect around the league. There's even a viral moment coming up where he completely shuts down an NFL insider, and I'll show you that in a bit. So let's talk about what Raiders GM John Spytek pulled off because he fooled Todd McShay. Remember, right before the draft, McShay went on TV and confidently said, the Raiders will not draft Ashton Jeanty at pick number. Altonja, that report dropped just 24 to 48 hours before the draft, and honestly, it had everyone second guessing. I know I wasn't the only one thinking, wait, is Jeanty going earlier? Or does McShay know something we don't? Now, if you followed me, you know I kept saying, if I had to bet, the Raiders are taking Jenny. In fact, I even said it on an ESPN show. It's up on my socials if you want to check receipts. I said I would take Armandale personally, but I believed the pick would be Jenny. Turns out McShay thought we were going with Kelvin Banks, and he wasn't alone. Even Vic Tafur, who doesn't even cover the Raiders anymore, said he thought Banks was the guy. Why all the confusion? Because Spytek was dropping smokescreens everywhere. Classic misdirection. Even Pete Carroll was throwing out misleading gifts. And you know what? That's what good organizations do. They protect their picks. They keep things quiet. And clearly, they fooled some of the best in the business. McShay eventually gave Spytek some well-earned credit, saying, I want to give a lot of credit for the espionage, for leaking late that it was going to be Banks. John Spytek, I see you. And for McShay to come out and say, hey, I was wrong, that's on me, that takes respect. That shows just how much weight Spytek is starting to carry in NFL circles. I don't see this as shady or sneaky. I see it as a GM doing whatever it takes to win football games. And man, I'm just glad that guy is our general manager. Before we sign off, quick heads up. Starting May 16th, our Madden season kicks off. Me and Jeremy Chuggs will be live on Wednesday, May 14th for the NFL schedule release. Don't know the exact time yet, but we'll be on earlier in the day. If you've ever watched our Madden live streams, you know we go all in. It's fun. It's crazy. It's basically our version of Raiders preseason here at the Report. So if you're like me, sitting in May thinking, man, I already miss Raiders football, then make sure you're subscribed. Notifications are on, and get ready for May 16th. It's going to be wild.